Hello and welcome to today's episode of Confidently Outspoken. I'm your host, Siggy, and if you're out there looking to build confidence and improve yourself, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. I publish these episodes every week so you can consistently get better and become the confident person you want to be. Are you someone who's into her health and fitness? Or you may be pursuing your weight loss goal or strength goal and you're struggling with your body image right now and you're really unsure about what to do, or you just don't like what you see in the mirror right now. I want you to keep listening on because in today's podcast, I'm going to be talking with a lovely freaking guest that you may or may not know, and we're going to be covering topics around why the fact it is that you feel so negatively about yourself, why you feel pressurized with your health and fitness goals, and how you can move away from it with very practical ways from our experience. And it may or may not help you to build those lifelong results and navigate your goals as well. I want to introduce my first guest for the Confidently Outspoken podcast. And I have my beautiful bestie on board. For those who don't know her, her name is Soph Allen. And for those who don't know Soph, she is a fitness trainer who's helping women build lifelong results beyond just the aesthetic side of things. Soph, I'm so freaking excited to have you here, babe. I want us to start the conversation today about the world that we live in around the health and fitness industry. And in a world of comparison, where it feels almost unavoidable, how do you navigate these stories that come up in your head when you're on social media without getting stuck into this vortex of self-doubt?
Hey, bestie.
Hi.
Thanks for having me on. I think this is something that I just want to normalize for everyone out there that's listening. These things happen no matter what your mindset is. Like if you are someone who has worked for a really long time on building a resilient mindset, navigated these things, self-doubt, comparison, etc., you can still have your days and moments and times where you fall into that trap of comparing yourself. I think it's totally normal thing to do. I do it, you do it. We have conversations about it all the time. So like you said, the question is, how do you avoid doing that or work through that or overcome that? So I think the first step is accepting that it's something that can happen and not beating yourself up about it happening. If it does happen, you're like, no, I've dealt with this. I've sort of made it through this and it's happening again, and you just sort of feel bad about it. So acknowledging it and accepting it. Having boundaries around your social media really helps me because I understand when I am in a headspace, when this is feeling a bit easier to fall into that trap. It's like, okay, I'm just going to get off social media or reduce my time spent on social media and focus on some other activity. I know there are certain headspaces where I fall more into the comparison trap, and it's just when I'm feeling stressed about something or overwhelmed about something, or like my productivity's gone down. It's funny, we just reach for something like a dopamine hit scrolling on social media, and it ends up having the opposite effect. So the awareness and the boundaries are things that really help me, accepting that this is something that happens and focusing on the things that I do well or have done well in that day can try and bring you back to that gratitude of the things that you have achieved, because it's so easy to constantly be grabbing, looking, finding, and you forget what you've actually done and achieved and the great many things about us that do exist if you take the time to look for them.
I resonate so much about the fact that you said that too often we'll feel low, but then go onto our phone to try and get that dopamine hit. But then you're on it and you're like, why the fuck am I on here again? Like I'm literally perpetuating this negative cycle over and over again. And it's like so addictive. It's literally like someone who's trying to recover from alcohol. You know, you're not supposed to, drink, but like you have this urge of just wanting more and more and more. And I'm not saying I can't compare alcohol, addiction to to social media, but there's that similarity where we're wanting that quick fix, where when we end up on it, it's not actually helpful whatsoever. You also mentioned that there are moments where you feel that low in terms of the comparison. And I want us to like dive a little bit deeper because I feel as if too many people are not openly speaking about this. They feel some form shameful or guilty for the fact that they are comparing themselves. And you know what, like I've fallen into that loop. And you know what, it happened to me last week as well, when I really had this shitty moment of like watching people on Instagram, and I was just like, they're doing all these amazing things. They have this, they have that. And you're sitting there and I'm just like, I got nothing. It's just like, hold on a second. Like in that moment of despair, obviously you're not thinking, oh, it's not as if I don't have anything. But like when you in that midst of negativity, it can really fucking get into your head like a lot. And I want for you to like open up about this a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's actually, and I hate to be one of those wankers that says this.
Be a wanker.
But there's an opportunity in the stuff that triggers you.
Yeah.
So maybe not in the moment when you're in that trap, because it can be really hard to pull yourself out of that and be like, what can I learn from this? Like that's so annoying.
You never think like that.
Right now, I just need to feel my feels. But when I reflect on it, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm looking at, for instance, someone's body or someone's business achievements and accomplishments. And it's like, do you actually want that? Like, do you feel held back by that? Do you want the lifestyle that is required to attain that body or build that business? And if the answer is yes, what are you doing about it? If the answer is no, why do you want that? Why are you comparing to that? Why are you jealous of what that person has?
Yeah.
I think jealousy, like comparison, is a normal emotion, but it can tell us that maybe that's something we want. And so it's important to actually ask yourself, do I actually want these things? Because as we know, social media is a highlight reel. People put up, oh, here is my 8-figure business. And you're like, oh, I want that. Their lifestyle looks really cool. And it's like, yeah, the parts they're showing, like the accomplishments, the awards, the milestones, the events, whatever it might be, that looks really cool. But like, do you see them get the 4 a.m. wake ups and like the always on their emails, always in meetings, neglecting a lot of other aspects of their lives to achieve these things? Are you willing to part with those things? Because if not, you need to readjust your expectations for yourself and what you want. But as far as the things I compare myself to, it's mostly those two things. It's mostly the body image stuff. And that's because it's one thing that I can struggle with. I'm human. I work in the fitness industry. It's a recipe for disaster a lot of the time. So I will, see someone who is maybe in a similar position to me, like they're a fitness coach, they have an app, they've got a community, and they're getting a lot of engagement because they're looking super lean. And I'm like, oh, I was a bit leaner a few months ago, and then now I'm going through a phase where I'm not as lean, and it can be so easy to be hard on yourself. So I think the thing you're feeling insecure at the most at the moment is the thing that we tend to compare, and it's a recipe for disaster. But that's one thing. And then obviously business stuff, like when you have really big ambitious goals for yourself and you see other people doing things that you want to do and maybe there's some self-doubt there, I think that's where the comparison can come in a lot, and you can really be hard on yourself. And sometimes, depending on my headspace, it really inspires and motivates me. And then other times when I'm maybe not feeling like I'm ticking off the things I need in order to get there, I'm like, oh, this is hard and it feels like it's easy for everyone else.
Fuck, I relate to that so much, because there's points where I compare myself and it's like, it gives me this drive, that itch, like, yes, like let's do more, let's, fight this. But then as you mentioned, there's times where like you're in a really shitty mindset and then you're comparing yourself and you see people achieving all these amazing things and you're like, I'll never be able to do that. Or you come up with these stories, I don't have the funds, I don't have the education, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not lean enough, like all these fucking stories that we keep telling ourselves. But hence, like, we also need to understand, like, this is the human fucking experience. Like, if we didn't have social media or if we didn't have anyone else around us, of course this comparison wouldn't happen. As you said though, there's moments in this comparison, in this despair of feeling really shitty, of like this light bulb moment going, okay, I'm comparing myself to a person who is doing something that I really fucking want. And it's asking yourself, is it really something that you're wanting to pursue? Or are you trying to make yourself believe that it is something that you're wanting? And I'm going to be so fucking honest right now. And it has nothing to do with body image, but it literally just came up to my mind. We've had Valentine's recently. And Valentine's Day triggers the fuck out of me. Don't know why, and I do know why. A tendency of jealousy comes up. And this comes to the comparison where you see a lot of people, again, social media, putting their highlight reels, not real life. It's just a highlight reel of the one day in the 365 days of the year of their partner buying them roses or going out for a nice dinner or like having a cute selfie and like doing all these acknowledgement posts. And I was reflecting back and I'm like, my past relationships, there was no acknowledgement like that. Not saying that I necessarily needed that on the one day. You know, Valentine's Day is a beautiful day to acknowledge the love, but we also want to be acknowledged every day when you're in the relationship. So where I'm trying to get with this is that jealousy triggered the fuck out of me. And it brought up a lot of emotions thinking, I'm not good enough. I'm getting older, mind you, I'm 36, so I'm not fucking old. But these are the stories that go through my head. I don't have kids. Do I want kids? Or maybe do I need to have this thought or this reflection, well, if I'm 36 and I don't have kids, will I potentially not have kids? Will I potentially find a partner to have kids? Like, you just don't know. And obviously that perpetuated a negative mindset. It didn't take me into a thinking mode of going, oh, that's fine, Sig, like this jealousy is coming up because you really want love. Like, of course, humans want connection, we want love, but it like put me down into this fucking spiral. Instead of spiraling down, I wish it spiraled me up.
That would be nice.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, too often in the moment of that negative puddle of shit that you're sitting in, it's really hard to see that lesson in that moment. And I think too often, as much as great advice you want to get from your friends or your mentors, as you said, you need to sit in that moment and try and navigate, like, why is this coming up for you? And really having like that deep reflection. But again, it comes down to the person. Like, are you well aware enough of your behaviors, of your patterns? And this is something that I've spoken about previously, that too often people don't have that awareness and they move through life without it. And like that fucking sucks, man. Like, I really think about the time before I started coaching or before the first time I went to therapy. I was literally moving through life in such a victim mindset. And like looking back now, I'm like, wow, no wonder people didn't fucking want to be with me or didn't want to like converse with me because I was so negative.
I've been there. I was exactly the same before I became more aware and started doing therapy and reading self-development books. It really is eye-opening to look at things from a lens of like, okay, I control the things I can control, and focusing on those and letting the things that you can't control go. You know, like Valentine's Day is super triggering. I used to find it really triggering when I was single too. And it's funny, then you get into a relationship, and because you don't have those same stresses relating to being single and the doubt and the unknown space that you sit in of when's it going to happen, it loses that allure. I think when you're single, it's, at least for me, I was like, oh my God, Valentine's Day is this whole thing. And like, yeah, it was a really beautiful day for me and my partner, but it wasn't this like whole grandeur thing that I imagine in my head when I'm single. It's just a triggering thing if you're someone who is single and wants to find a partner but is not having success with that. And if you are someone who likes romance, it can really just push that in your face. But yeah, the victim mindset was huge for me before I got into this space. And you know, sometimes I miss those days because the obliviousness was really nice. And now you have to take responsibility and be the bigger person in so many situations. But it is better because it means that you can work on your shit and try and get closer to a state of constant acceptance and awareness, which is not possible if you are stuck in, oh, it's everyone else's fault, I can't take responsibility for my own shit. And the things I can control, what do you mean? Like, I don't control anything. Like, just that really negative energy.
Yeah, fuck. That really pisses me off right now when people don't take personal responsibility. And obviously because we've done so much work on ourselves, if something happens, we know it's not a reflection of someone else, it's our own actions. Like we had full control of getting ourselves into that situation, so we have full control of getting ourselves out of it. But people have the tendency going, it was my ex's problem, it was my boss's problem, it was raining so I didn't go for my walk. It's just like, come up with a solution. Like let's throw away this, blaming game and start like picking up the pieces, or picking up the pace actually of building that self-awareness. While we're on the topic of social media, we've spoken a little bit more about the comparison side of things and how to like get out of this vortex of self-doubt. Something that we've been really big on lately and over the last maybe 2-3 years is not advertising more of like that before after photos. And we know in the fitness culture, especially around like weight loss journeys or anyone who's like in some form of body composition goal, we tend to see more of that before and after as like a success physical transformation. How can we reframe these success stories to focus more on the self-love journey, the inner growth, and personal victories beyond just what you see in front of yourself?
Yeah, I love this. So obviously years ago and still now, before and afters relating specifically to fat loss are a huge way for fitness trainers to show credibility that they know what they're doing and that they get results. And it's a very effective way to sell your service. And something to remember is Instagram and all these social media platforms, they're visual platforms. So a lot of what we're trying to communicate and show as far as self-love and confidence building is very difficult to tangibly show in an image, because it's something that is communicated more so when you're around someone's energy and the way someone speaks and holds themselves, and if you knew them before that and then after their transformation. But at Train with Soph, my app, something we focus on is the strength girls have built. So I really love showing like their lifts or a testimonial where they've written, before I felt like this, I had no confidence, I struggled with my body image, I struggled with consistency in my routine, to then being like, I actually have a lifestyle I enjoy, and maybe I did start and focus on fat loss, but now I love focusing on strength, I love going to the gym, like I love the confidence I feel by following this routine. So a lot of what we show is like X person's journey, and it speaks about the highs and lows. It's got their testimonial in there. It's got images of them not just in a bikini before and after fat loss. It's like, look at, the growth of, their glutes or something like that, or look at how happy they are in this photo compared to when they first started. You can kind of see it from that way. But I think it's different language and, of course, just different imagery is the best way to move away from that, because so many of us, and myself included, start getting into fitness because we don't like what we see. And then it really, truly is a journey, bless that word, but it is a journey to get from purely wanting to lose fat and shrink yourself to realizing there are so many other benefits that come with focusing on your health and fitness and building strength and resilience and overcoming obstacles, and the impact that has on your life outside of your training is just major.
It's such an interesting topic to chat about, because the fitness, and to be honest, like this is what's wrong with the health and fitness industry. It's purely physical, where I feel as if the physical should be like the 10%, and the rest of that circle should be so much higher around like longevity, health, bone density, muscle gain, like, menstrual health. Like you could think of like a million other things, but yet we put such a big emphasis on just how the fuck we look. And it's just like, no wonder we're comparing ourselves to other people, because we're constantly striving to be a certain way or looking a certain way because it's perpetuated out there in the industry. And like you said, we got into the industry because we didn't like the fact that of how we looked like. So then we're in it now, and then we're just seeing like how everyone else is like amongst this fucking cycle of wanting to look a certain way, but it's just actually asking, do you actually want to look this way? Or is it like an old conditioning belief that you're getting fed in that you need to be doing this because fucking every Joe Blow's doing it as well?
Or don't open Pandora's box like that on me. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. It's very hard to come to terms with that, and it's very hard to separate your conditioning to what you truly want and why, because of there being so many layers of it, like society's pressure, whatever your upbringing, family was, the circle that you're around, how you feel about yourself, your habits, your lifestyle, all these things sort of come into play on why we actually do what we do. It's very hard to get very clear on what you want to achieve and why with, removing all of those layers, but it's like a forever thing. It's a forever thing to work on and through if you're someone who is a woman and has social media and has a body, basically.
So I know majority of people listening to this are women. I do know also that men experience this as well, but it's not spoken openly enough about. And I feel as if men feel shameful around body image too. And slowly you're seeing a difference where men are speaking openly more about their issues around body image. However, so interestingly that I'm bringing this up because they feel shameful around this because women tend to shame them. And I'm not having a go at all women, but I've seen this from experience myself where I would shame previous partners of not looking a certain way or dressed a certain way or not having like chiseled abs or like a short haircut, like whatever it is. But again, it's like from old conditioning of me having this idea of what my partner should look like instead of actually just accepting them as they are and let them, be on their journey as well.
Such a projection as well. Like,
massive.
I need to be seen with a person that looks like X, Y, Z, and like overcoming that. You're like trying to overcome your own shit in the same sentence. It's tough.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. Us humans are beautiful fucking creatures, human beings.
And it's interesting because men and women both have a shared experience in struggle with needing to look a certain way. For women, it's typically I want to be smaller and skinnier.
Yeah.
Whereas for men, it's like I want to be bigger and have muscles and be taller. And it's just they're two opposite things, but the same experience. It's just very interesting.
Speaking of us as women being so mean to men, I came across this TikTok the other day, and it was a man in the water. And then the camera was above, and then the camera went below the water, and the guy was like moving his legs, like flowing like a ballerina.
Oh, it was an ick, wasn't it?
It was an ick. Yeah. And in my mind, I was like, haha, yeah, like that's funny. But then this chick just took it way too far, and she showed her list of icks. Yeah.
This is a huge trend where it's like it blows podcasts up because like people just talk about their icks.
But why? Like I don't like that. And I think that also puts another pressure on men to be a certain way. And I went through the fucking list, and I swear it was like, don't eat. Don't be below 6 foot. Don't wear singlets, like the torn big up.
Oh, like stringers?
Yeah. There was another one. Oh my God. There was just like it was like don't eat, don't drink, like all these ridiculous things. And I'm thinking to myself, why are we putting so much pressure on these men? And like, how can we start, looking within ourselves and going like, why are we expecting so much from them? And how can we expect a little bit more from ourselves?
I think, like the icks are an interesting one. I think there are some that are funny that don't attack people's like personal appearances.
Yeah.
Like no one can do anything about their height.
No one can do anything about the willy.
I mean, she's got a point. But
Facts, but that shouldn't be an ick.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's not cool.
It's like a man turning around to you being like, your tits are too small.
Yeah.
Ick. Or they're too big. Ick.
Yeah. No, I think like the personal appearance attacks are low blow.
Yeah.
But there's some funny ones out there where it's like, oh yeah, he ran for the bus or something like that. And it's just like, you just have this image
of him running.
There's some that just kill me. But yeah, the personal appearance attacks are like unnecessary. Just another thing for people to be like, oh shit, like,
worried about.
I wear that or I do that, and am I going to be accepted? Am I the reason? Am I the problem?
Yeah.
Am I why I'm single? Because people don't like what I wear. And it's just like, you know, there are people, there's someone for everyone kind of thing. Like not everyone has the same ick list. Some girls don't care about
how they
guys
eat.
wearing stringer singlets or whatever they wear. You know, some people will love that, some people hate that, and that's the beautiful nature of, you know, diversity in people's like things that people like.
We know there's the diversity, but then is it changing women's perceptions around men because of this?
Yeah. It's like social, people want to fit in socially. So it's like, oh, everyone's hating on like these things, like to be part of that group, like the cool kids group, and be accepted, which is like a built-in thing as a human. You want to be part of the clan. If you're kicked out, you literally die. So it's like, okay, I'm going to like, I agree, I'm like in on this as well. And it's so much easier to laugh at someone else than to sort of stand up for someone and be different in that scenario.
Speaking of like the standards, especially us as women around the fitness and health realm of things, we often see idealized versions of beauty in the fitness industry. But how do we navigate these standards while embracing our unique journey and body? And this goes back to like the old comparison side of things as well.
Yeah, and it's just funny that there's such thing as body trends. Like if you look back on each sort of generation or year, it's like how heroin chic came back in, because in the 90s, all those like skinny, stick-thin models was a thing, and then the 90s regenerations come around and everyone's like, oh, that's the look again. And then there's like the big ass look and skinny waist, and then there's like all these trends that go around. You literally can't keep up. You can't change your body like you can change your hair.
Yeah.
And your genetics play such a huge role in what you just naturally look like, that for one person being naturally lean and skinny is very easy. For someone else, they have to diet on 1,200 calories to get to that point and completely fuck up their hormones, their libido, their relationship with food, their energy, like their sleep, their stress, everything. Like we see this as coaches all the time. And then it's impossible for everyone to look a certain way. And how boring if everyone looked the same way. Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And I remember there was like a trend going when the whole, you know, Kim Kardashian diet thing was going around, and, you know, she was wearing the corsets. Oh my God. I don't even want to like remember this phase, because like I think I bought one, but I didn't use it because I remember tying it up. And I was just like, I actually can't fucking
The waist
breathe.
trainers?
Yes,
Yeah.
the waist trainer. Yeah, that's the one.
To get a small waist.
Oh my God. I remember like this, you know, the fact that I'm opening up about this is growth, because if I spoke about this 5 years ago, I would have like been so embarrassed. But yeah, the waist trainers, you know, trying to like slim your waist, where we know you can't do that. Like you might notice like a minimal change because of you compressing something, but eventually it's just going to come back to that natural state. But so many women were doing it. And to be honest, some women are still doing it, thinking it's going to help them to look slimmer, to help with a weight loss journey or whatever. And it's just like, how can we start moving away from these trends? And I know, again, like back to the earlier conversation, comes down to that self-awareness, but also being okay about the fact that you're never going to look like Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, it's It's tough. There's so much pressure societally and on social media, and we see. I often wonder, if I didn't have social media, if we didn't have social media, would I do half the things I do? Would I wear half the things I wear? And that's something that I'm really focusing on this year as far as my buying habits go. Because, like, I'm influenced as well. I get influenced by, like, oh my God, so many people have, like, this shoe or this top or whatever it might be. And the same goes with, like, oh my God, everyone's got big glutes, or everyone's got a small waist, or everyone's in their bulking phase, whatever it is. I wish that was a trend. Everyone being like, yeah, let's bulk.
Let's bulk forever.
But it's coming back to myself and being like, is this actually my style? Do I actually like this and want this? Or is it genuinely just because everyone else is doing it, or it looks like everyone else is doing it? So that's something that I'm really focusing on. But I think coming back to redefining what health means to you. So this is something that has been huge at Train with Soph, where we've changed our perception around health, because the industry was very heavily fat loss focused, and
still is.
And
we've got a long way to go.
We do. And like, there's nothing wrong with fat loss, but I think there are a lot of just people's reasons for doing it don't necessarily come from authentic reasons.
Again, it comes down to that influence. Yeah. Everyone's shredding for summer, so you're like, well, fuck, I need to shred as well, because if I don't, I'm going to be an outcast and people are not going to like me because I'm too bulky.
So, like, we look at health from a few different metrics. It's like energy and how you're feeling, and are you able to go to the gym and it not be like a chore, or not be something that you feel guilty if you skip it. So like being able to rest, being able to do your day-to-day activities, being able to move, getting stronger, your mental health. Like, a lot of the girls go to the gym to support their mental health because it makes them feel capable and strong. So these are the things that we focus on, and whatever your body does as a representation or a reflection of that is what it does. And obviously your nutrition plays a huge role as well. So we have that same approach to nutrition, like whole foods, soul foods, you know, what's going to make you feel good, having a nice balanced diet, and looking at certain habits and behaviors you might have. Like, are you emotional eating? Let's dig into that. Let's figure that out. That's not necessarily something we focus on heaps at TWS because we're not psychologists, but like having that awareness and encouraging the girls to challenge some of these behaviors and figure out why they're doing it. So redefining what health means to you is going to mean you're focusing on decision making from a more holistic approach, rather than like a negative, I need to be skinny, punish myself, compare myself, fit in with the crowd sort of way. And I think I'm seeing that tide turning a lot, where people just have that awareness around wanting to, like all the things you said before about what fitness and health does for your body. People are starting to appreciate that a lot more, and when they start, they see the effects it has on their life, and they're like, oh, this is actually addictive because I just have more energy and I feel happier and stronger and more confident. So that's what we, like, our approach at TWS.
I feel as if the change in trend is also because of how we influence our audience as well, because we're going through a transition ourselves too, you know, moving away purely from just fat loss for punishing ourselves. We're actually teaching ourselves, but also our audience, that if you're wanting to lose weight, why is it that you're wanting to lose weight for? Is it health purposes? You know, are there certain like health complications that you do need to lose the weight, instead of just losing weight for the fact that summer's coming and you think you're overweight? So it's looking at that, and I feel as if it will change more over time because of the influence that we have on them as well, because we're no longer pushing this idea that you constantly have to lose weight, or constantly showing them the before and after photos. You know, we're showing them the various influences of our lives, as you mentioned, like our menstrual cycles, our health, our mental health walks. Like, that's something that you've been really big on lately, which is like changing the narrative. Instead of like having to hit your 10K steps because, you know, movement, it's just like actually going outside, getting fresh air, because you've been stuck from 9 to 5 sitting in front of a fucking screen, and then you wonder yourself, why am I depressed? Oh yeah, because I'm not getting enough sunlight. Like, humans are literally like plants. If we're in a room, like a secluded room just like this, with no fresh air, no light, of course at some degree your energy is going to degrade. So it's just like going outside and like knowing how those habits are going to eventually help you and motivate you to do more of it because it makes you feel good. So it's changing that narrative. I fucking love that. And I hope to see that change more in the next, I don't know, 5, 10, 20 fucking decades. But like, as you mentioned, trends come in and go. So it'd be very interesting to see like what is the next fucking trend that comes. And if there is, please don't go on that trend.
Yeah, I feel like as well, a lot of brands are starting to be way more inclusive with size diversity and models that they're using in campaigns. And because we are, like, humans come in all different sizes, shapes and forms, and it's really nice to be able to see yourself in a campaign. And I know a lot of women have said this, there's no longer just the size 6 for tiny skinny models. It's like people of all different shapes and sizes and abilities and colours, and it's really a positive step forward in people being able to accept themselves more, I think.
Accepting themselves more and working towards the other goals that they have in mind as well. And I think this is where it becomes more positively influential for a lot of women. Speaking of like the positive influential for us women, we often hear the importance of self-love. You're big on this. I'm a fucking huge advocate about this, but sometimes it kind of like gets lost and people have this different approach or different way of thinking like what self-love is. But what does self-love actually look like in an action form, especially in a society that bombards us of images of unsustainable beauty standards?
I think for me, like there are a few things, if we want to like break this down. Self-love, a lot of it I think comes, for me at least, keeping promises to myself. And self-love, confidence, sort of one and the same there, where you can do hard things. You know, say your goal is to go to the gym 3 days a week. If you set that goal for yourself and you follow through, I think that sort of ticks a little box and adds that to your self-love, you know, boosting that up. And I think when we don't, you know, we set ourselves up for failure and say, I want to go to the gym 6 days a week. If you've been someone who's been going 0 days, you set these huge standards. And then if you don't get there, it can degrade that self-love, that self-trust, that self-efficacy. So it's like setting goals for yourself, little goals, and building on them and achieving them and ticking things off and showing yourself, oh, I actually can do the things that I say I'm going to do. And I'm really, it brings about this sense of pride. And you're like, oh my God, I achieved this. I did the thing I said I was going to do. I kind of doubted myself, but by doing that and overcoming whatever obstacles were there, that's really cool. I think compassion is a huge one as well. So self-compassion, because we're not perfect humans and we don't always get it right and we fuck up and we miss a session, and being able to look at that and not go, oh, I'm a failure. Oh, I always do this thing where I say I'm going to do it and I never actually achieve it. It's kind of like the other side, the flip side of what I'm saying with actually achieving things and doing them and ticking them off. It's being able to be okay if you don't actually achieve those things as well, and looking at, if this is a consistent ongoing thing, how can I change and update that so that it fits into this identity I'm trying to build for myself, where I am someone who achieves the things I say I'm going to achieve and can actually do that, and then build and layer those things in so that you start doing more and more for yourself. So the self-compassion is huge and can be very hard to practice when you're in one of those loops, like the negative comparison trap that you fall into, or if you're having a really bad run with luck and things that are happening in your life, it can be very difficult to show that compassion. And then you go on social media and you see everyone else killing it and you're like, I'm doing something wrong, like what's wrong with me? But everyone experiences it, and you've just got to remind yourself that you're not alone. And I think having vulnerable conversations with people where you can share in your struggles or be heard makes you feel a lot less alone and can help to build that self-love as well.
I love the fact that you started that answer with keeping promises to yourself, because it's not a generic answer where people will be like, oh, just run a bath or just massage some like body oil and like look in the mirror and say some affirmations. And like, I'm not saying these things don't work, but it's like surface level shit. where keeping a promise to yourself it's a big fucking goal, because too often we're promising all these things to other people, but then when it comes to our own health, our own goals, our own being, we put it kind of like to the side. And then that negative mindset comes up going, I don't have time because I have to do this for that person and I do that. It's just like, no, like you have a really shitty time management skill, or you have really shitty boundaries. And again,
pleasing tendencies, a lot of women.
I used to be a massive people pleaser. And to be honest, I still have moments sometimes that come up when someone would either message me or ask me for help. And the urge for me to be like, yeah, I'll be there, I'll do it. It's just like, no, Sig, like right now you're doing a task for work. It needs to be done. And if it's not done, it's just going to push it longer to the rest of the day. And it's just like really sitting going, is this urgent? Yes or no? No. Cool. Message that person, be like, hey, I will get back to you when I can. Right now I'm busy. Perfect example. I was in this midst of tech stuff on my computer, and I messaged my dad because fucking genius. I was like, hey, this is the issue, da. He's like, send me a few screenshots of what you need help with. I was just like, cool, I'll send it through. I didn't hear, and usually he messages straight away. And I like just sent like a little like question mark. I'm like, hello? He's like, hey, Sig, I'm really busy right now. Unfortunately, I won't be able to chat to you, but I will call you when I can.
King. We love a boundary king.
Facts though.
Yeah.
Facts. And it's not like, it's coming from a place of like, you need to accept that everyone's not going to just fall on their fucking knees and help you, because like you don't fall on your knees and help everyone else. So again, it's like keeping those promises to yourself, setting those healthier boundaries.
So hard to do. I think another one to add to that is knowing your values. And if you live in alignment with your values, in a situation like that where someone asks you to do something, you can be like, does this match up to my values? Where it's like, do you value putting people before yourself? Because if you do, then cool, do it. Like, you shouldn't. Just side note, that probably shouldn't be one of your values. But if you know your values are really clear on them, like health or love or connection or friendship, whatever, there's so many tasks out there that you can do to figure that out. It can help direct you towards what the promises you should be making to yourself are 100%. That'll make you feel good when you follow through. Because we can all make promises to ourselves and be like, cool, I want to save $1,000 this month. But if you don't care about saving money, it mightn't have the benefit that I'm talking about, like building that self-love, because you're like, well, that was easy. And what am I doing with that now? Cool, I'll save it, whatever. But if you're someone who's like, oh my God, I really want to like go to the gym. I'm going to use the same example. Go to the gym 3 times this week. It's really difficult for me. Health is really important. It's a huge value of mine. I'm a busy mom. I'm working as well. If I can achieve this, like I will be feeling so good about myself. I've prioritized myself. I've put myself first. I've demonstrated this to my kids and my family and expressed the importance of this. That's huge. Like that is massive. So make sure the promises you're making to yourself are actually things you give a shit about.
Literally nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. I'm speechless, to be honest. If you guys can take one takeaway from today, is what is your relationship with social media? Is it a negative or a positive relationship? If it's negative, sit with it and go, who are you comparing yourself to? Do you need to start limiting your time of using it? And who are you being influenced by? Because if you're being influenced by someone that's constantly triggering you in a negative form, it's time to address those feelings that are coming up. And lastly, hopefully, this conversation may have helped you, but looking at self-love in a different framework by keeping those promises to yourself, and not necessarily, just buying that treat because you feel like it, but actually doing the things that you say that you're going to do and keep doing them to achieve the goals that you want. So that's what I got for you today. If you loved today's episode, please share it on Instagram stories and tag me at sigfisher, SIGFISHER. And with that, I'm going to leave you with the wisdom to become more confidently outspoken every day.